I want to tell you how you can harness the power of your gut microbiome to help you sleep better. I'm Dr. Robynne Chutkan, gastroenterologist, microbiome expert, and author, and I am here to help you find gut bliss. On today's show, the big three you cannot live without are food, water, and sleep. If you decide to go on a fast and you don't eat food for 7 days, at the end of the week, you will definitely be hungry. You'll probably feel weak and shaky. You will have lost some weight, but you won't have any short-term or long-term ill effects. Not drinking water for 7 days will lead to a worse outcome. You'll be severely dehydrated, and some of your organs may even start to shut down. But once you rehydrate, you will likely make a full recovery. If you try the same experiment with sleep, at the end of the week, your coronary arteries will have hardened, putting you at increased risk for a heart attack. Your likelihood of developing Alzheimer's will have gone up, and your glucose levels will probably be in the pre-diabetic range. If you're a man, your testosterone levels will have dropped, which can age you by as much as a decade. And if you're a reproductive aged woman, you will be significantly less fertile. Your cancer-promoting genes will be turned up, and your helpful immune-regulating ones will be turned down. Not to mention, you'll be depressed and completely non-functional. In addition to all of that, sleep deprivation also dramatically increases your risk for coming down with an infection. A study published in the British Medical Journal found that people who are regularly sleep deprived have an 88% greater risk of coming down with COVID. And that is not a coincidence. It's your immune system struggling because it's not getting the sleep it requires. While you sleep, your immune system produces infection-fighting antibodies and cytokines that help protect you from pathogens. Not enough sleep cripples your immune system, and it decreases your ability to fend off invaders, making it harder for you to recover if you do have an infection. Sleep is so critical to health that in 1996, the Guinness Book of World Records stopped accepting records for sleep deprivation because they felt it was so harmful. And Amnesty International actually classifies sleep deprivation as a form of torture. So we know that good sleep is essential, but we also know that it can be hard to achieve. You may have done all the things. You may have blackout shades, you're drinking chamomile tea, playing calming music, taking a warm bath, no screens before bed. You may even have tried counting sheep, and you still cannot get a good night's sleep. I want to tell you about an alternative pathway to better sleep that you might not have considered, and it's in your digestive tract. Instead of focusing on how to turn off your brain to help you get a good night's sleep, I want you to think about how you can activate what's going on in your gut. And the first thing that you need to know about the connection between your gut and your sleep has to do with the sleep hormone melatonin. When we come back, I'm going to explain how your gut directly impacts melatonin production and how that affects your sleep. The Gut Bliss podcast is brought to you by VisBiome, my first and quite frankly, my only choice for a probiotic. Whether you're dealing with irritable bowel syndrome or just looking to restore your gut health, VisBiome can help. It's a medical food for the dietary management of IBS and gut inflammation. Backed by science and clinically vetted by thousands of my own patients. Find your gut bliss with VisBiome. Go to visbiome.com/gutbliss and use discount code GUTBLISS at checkout. Here's how it works. As it gets darker, your eyes sense less light and send a message to your brain via your optic nerve that night is coming. In response, your brain increases melatonin secretion to make you sleepy. And that's why darkness is so essential for falling asleep, because it triggers melatonin secretion. In the morning, the opposite happens. As it gets lighter, melatonin secretion decreases and you wake up. So darkness is important for falling asleep, and light is important for waking up. And for it all to work properly, you need to have adequate production of melatonin. And this is where your gut comes in. Melatonin is made from a precursor hormone called serotonin. And you may have heard serotonin referred to as the feel-good hormone because of its positive effect on mood and feelings of well-being. 90% of the total serotonin in your body is made in your GI tract. And gut bacteria are intimately involved in serotonin production, which ties your gut microbiome into the sleep equation. Low microbial diversity in your gut is associated with low serotonin production, which can lead to low melatonin production, which is associated with poor sleep. High diversity and richness in your gut microbiome is associated with increased serotonin production, increased melatonin production, and improved sleep quality. So how do you make sure you have adequate serotonin levels so that you can make enough melatonin? 2 ways. The first is to make sure you're eating the right foods that promote production of melatonin. And both serotonin and melatonin are made from the amino acid tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid, meaning your body can't make it on its own and you need to get it from food. The second way to ensure adequate melatonin is to make sure you are not disrupting your gut microbiome, since that's where serotonin, the precursor to melatonin, is made. What are the things that disrupt your microbiome? Well, this is a pretty long list, but my top 3 are, number 1, excessive antibiotics, number 2, ultra-processed food, and number 3, not enough fiber. So you want to make sure that you're not taking an antibiotic unless it's absolutely indicated. You want to make sure that ultra-processed foods are not making up more than 10 to 15% of your diet. And you want to make sure that you're eating a high-fiber diet with lots of plants, lots of fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, etc. When we talk about the gut-brain axis, we're referring to communication pathways between your gut and your brain, and these pathways are bidirectional, meaning your brain communicates with your gut and your gut communicates with your brain. So we have key signals being passed back and forth between these 2 organs. These pathways are also heavily influenced by the health of your gut microbiome. An imbalanced, disrupted microbiome can produce metabolites that cause inflammation in your brain. And these neuroinflammatory products can travel from your gut to your brain, and in addition to affecting things like your mood and memory, they can also negatively affect your sleep. So a healthy gut microbiome produces much fewer neuroinflammatory products, and it's therefore much less likely to disrupt your sleep. I've been spending a lot of time talking about disrupted sleep, so let me just remind you how much sleep we actually need to stay healthy. Babies and toddlers need a lot so they can process all the new things they're learning every day. Ideally, they should be spending more than half their time sleeping, so more than 12 hours in a 24-hour cycle. School-age kids who are also learning a lot and their brains are developing, they require between 9 and 11 hours. Teenagers should aim for 8 to 10 hours. Good luck with that. And adults need between 7 and 9 hours, although the CDC reports that only 2 out of every 3 Americans are getting at least 7 hours of sleep a night. So now that you know how important sleep is, how much you should be getting, and the close relationship between your GI tract and good sleep, I want to share 5 of my favorite gut-based tips for better sleep. Number 1, eat some tryptophan. Remember, tryptophan is one of the main ingredients in serotonin and melatonin, and because it's an essential amino acid, your body can't produce it on its own, and you have to get it from food. For plant sources, I recommend peanuts, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, tofu, and unprocessed, non-genetically modified soy. For animal sources, chicken, eggs, fish, and turkey are all high in tryptophan. Number 2, try some ferments. Fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi contain 3 important ingredients: prebiotics, which are fiber to feed your gut bacteria; probiotics, which are the bacteria that are produced during the fermentation process; and postbiotics, which are metabolites that are created during fermentation that help to maintain the health of your gut. Fermented foods can dramatically improve the health of your microbiome, which can help boost serotonin and melatonin production. Number 3, limit alcohol. I know you already know this. We all know this, but I'm going to remind you. Alcohol does not make you sleepy. It sedates you, and sedation and sleep are not the same thing. Alcohol is also bactericidal, which means it kills off bacteria, including the healthy ones in your gut. It's like when you go to get your blood drawn and they swab you with an alcohol wipe. That's to kill off the bacteria on your skin, and alcohol does the same thing in your GI tract. So alcohol is a major sleep disruptor, and if you're trying to establish a good sleep routine, reducing or avoiding alcohol altogether is key. Number 4, and this is one of my favorites, drink a little tart cherry juice. Tart cherries contain tryptophan as well as something called anthocyanins, and these are both compounds that help the body create melatonin and can lengthen its effects. Research shows that supplementing with tart cherry juice increases levels of melatonin and helps improve both sleep quality and sleep duration. In a study published in the American Journal of Therapeutics, where people suffering from insomnia drank either 16 ounces of tart cherry juice or the same amount of a placebo juice every day for 2 weeks, sleep time increased by an average of 85 minutes in the cherry juice group. That's much more impressive than most sleep supplements. By comparison, a review of 11 studies that looked at taking melatonin before bed showed a decreased sleep latency of 3 minutes, which means people fell asleep 3 minutes faster, and increased total sleep time of only about 30 minutes. So that is, much less impressive than the 85 minutes from tart cherry juice. If you're trying to cut back on alcohol, think about substituting a little tart cherry juice instead of that glass of wine. Number 5, and this is also a really important one, eat early. Digestion is a really active process, and it involves increased blood flow, lots of muscular contractions in the stomach and the smooth muscles of the intestine, and lots of enzymatic secretion from organs like the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. All that activity can stimulate you and keep you awake. And eating too close to bedtime can also lead to heartburn, which obviously is also going to disrupt your sleep. So if you're trying to get a good night's sleep, I highly recommend finishing dinner at least 3 hours before bedtime and avoiding heavy meals at night. There's no shortcut or hack that can replace a good night's sleep. You have to actually put in the hours. But the beauty of sleep is that it's within your grasp, even if you've been a poor sleeper your entire life. And one of the best ways to access good sleep is through your gut. So I want to leave you with 3 key things to remember about the connection between your gut and your sleep. Number 1, remember that melatonin-serotonin connection and the importance of a healthy gut microbiome for good sleep. Number 2, if you're going to snack at night, think about eating foods high in tryptophan like peanuts and pumpkin seeds, and consider a little tart cherry juice, which has been scientifically shown to help promote better sleep. Number 3, digestion is an active process and it can disrupt your sleep. So an early dinner, a light dinner, or even better, an early light dinner can be a game changer when it comes to getting a good night's sleep. So that's it for this edition of the Gut Bliss podcast on the gut-sleep connection. Go to gutbliss.com for my free 7-day microbiome reboot course. If you like what you're hearing, drop a review and hit that subscribe button. And remember, dirt, sweat, vegetables, the best prescription for a healthy gut. Coming up next week on the Gut Bliss podcast, ask your doctor these 2 questions. Number 1, whether the antibiotic they just prescribed is absolutely necessary. And number 2, what would happen if you didn't take it?
The information presented in this show is not meant to be medical advice. Consult your doctor before making any decisions about your health. The patients discussed are real people, but names and identifying features have been changed to protect their privacy.